Louise Strong was an American radical who sought to take a stand in various Reformation movements. This included protests pertaining to the treatment of laborers, education system regulations, and the potential of communism. She worked as an author and a journalist in order to create dozens of literary works delineating her thoughts on these disputes. Her articulate articles and poems described vast human experiences in nearly unreachable areas of the world, which allowed Strong to showcase indispensable political orientation through the power of her words. Strong's unwavering belief in the principles of communism, as well as her blatant support of dictatorship in the USSR and China, curtails her legacy as an American activist. However, regardless of her personal values, Louise Strong's revolutionary literary work would permit her to take a stand in multiple situations throughout her life. The power of her words would spark a heated debate surrounding many movements in the United States that still inspires activists today. Louise Strong's legacy of activism began in the state of Washington. In September 1910, Strong joined the National Child Labor Committee, a progressive organization dedicated to improving the welfare of children through showcasing exhibits across local communities. Strong traveled across the country to take a stand with a child welfare exhibit program, during which she became renowned for the substantial impact she had with the power of her words. In 1916, her reputation allowed her to easily win a spot on the Seattle School Board, as she promised to add a woman's point of view as the only female member. Nonetheless, when she took a stand for the rights of underprivileged and colored children, her objectives were overlooked, and Strong became increasingly frustrated with her limited impact. Instead, Strong took a stand in broader and more controversial issues. She covered the trial of laborers in the Everett Massacre for the New York Evening Post, circulating 30,000 copies of her articles and poems describing the event. She then subsequently joined the Industrial Workers of the World and began publishing pieces for the Seattle Daily Call pertaining to the labor movement.
One is she was covering it. She was a sort of stringer, and so she was writing regular reports to that paper, reports which were basically fairly sympathetic to the strikers. The other way is that she was actually involved in the IWW, International Workers of the World Organization, and was sort of seriously engaged with the IWW.
Louise Strong also became an editor for the Seattle Union Record, taking the pen name Anise in order to publish various renowned works of poetry that would be seen nationwide. After the Seattle General Strike on February 6, 1919, Strong took a stand to establish her thoughts and opinions on the event in various different articles. A front-page editorial titled "On Thursday at 10 a.m." is just one example.
We are undertaking the most tremendous move ever made by labor in this country. A move that will lead no one knows where.
Although Strong was not responsible for the instigation of the strike, the power of her words incited readers to take a stand.
Well, famously, she writes an editorial, almost a cheerleading column for a local union paper that projects that a general strike will shut down Seattle, and sort of with wide open and vague rhetoric, she says it will lead who knows where. And Americans are scared to death that this kind of radical, violent, totalitarian movement will undermine America's democratic system.
Louise Strong's poetry and articles incited hope amongst the people, despite the strike's limited impact on the rights of laborers. Her numerous published works also cemented Strong's reputation as a progressive radical. and her interest in communism also bloomed after this event.
Louise Strong, by this editorial no one knows where in the subsequent Seattle general strike, made a name for herself as a radical calling for revolution. It struck fear in the hearts of a number of people, but it also aroused a great deal of hope among radical groups, both in this country and around the world.
Strong's growing interest in communism propelled her to travel to Russia. She took a stand and revealed the raw experiences that she underwent in Russia: the famine, the military, the government, and the people.
The United States was always hostile to the Soviet Union, always hostile to the communist China, and sometimes that hostility made it impossible to really understand them and at least try to appreciate what was going on there. So she was a voice that tried to break through that hostility and encourage Americans just to open their eyes and give it a chance, or look into it and be open-minded toward it.
Her writing is compiled into various different works, including The First Time in History, Children of Revolution, and The Soviets Expected It. In her literary works, Strong delineates the differences between the United States and Russia. At times to a fault, Strong was unrelenting in her sympathy to the Stalinist regimes of the communist world, as she continued to stand up for the benefits of the socialist bloc. However, Register News was amongst the many newspapers that criticized Strong's writing on Soviet Russia. They described how Strong always found everything excellent there in comparison to everywhere else, particularly the United States. Similarly, a review from the American Journal of Sociology dating from 1925 disparaged her work as she focused entirely on the positive aspects of Soviet Russia and failed to address the negative. Although this claim may hold merit, Strong took a stand to expose the truth of USSR communism to Americans, while beneficial or not. In addition to advocating communist movements in Russia, Strong supported China by traveling there and writing about the successes of the current communist revolution. Strong sought to take a stand in the Chinese movement by exposing the true situations through the power of her words, in works such as Tibetan Interviews, Letters from China, and China's Millions. During her time in China, Louise Strong developed amicable relationships with many Chinese individuals, including Mao Zedong, a founding father of China and a communist revolutionist. She discovered a new hope in Mao's intentions for China, because although there was God's country in America and the perfect system in Russia, they made mistakes in China, learned from them, and resulted victorious. Throughout the course of her life, Louise Strong advocated for numerous political and social movements, including the management of laborers, principles in the education system, and the progression of communism.
She certainly took a stand in deciding what she wanted to cover. The fact that she stood up for workers' rights in Seattle during the general strike, and she chose to go to these countries that were in the midst of war to try to uncover the truth.
Under the pen name Anise as well as her own, she authored a substantial amount of literary work concerning these topics in order to take a stand and showcase her perspective to the world. Through the power of her words, Louise Strong incited potent reactions amongst the people, including passion, fear, determination, and most of all, hope. Hope for a new beginning in which a government is centralized, dictatorial, and requires the people's complete subservience to the state. She took a stand by revealing the truth of the situation in Russia and China to American citizens, in order to spark a debate surrounding the concept of communism that affects Americans to this day.